you criticize the LGBT, you will find yourself in big trouble. You can lose your job. They won't say that you're losing your job because of that yet in all cases, but they'll definitely cite discrimination of some kind. They will cite you will become a social outcast. It'll be difficult to get employed. You will find yourself being a pariah. And even those who do oppose it, like I've said, they'll keep their mouths shut because they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to rock the boat or upset too many people.
Yeah,
that's what has happened.
We
are at that point today.
I got an example about that, but I'll share that in a second. But in addition to the Gay Manifesto, I remember you wrote an article about this. I think Ted's mentioned it in a couple of his articles and videos too. But weren't there a couple of sodomites around this time that the Gay Manifesto was coming out that they wrote an article saying that one of their ways to make this happen was to portray themselves as victims rather than prideful? I forget their names.
Yes, it was mentioned in the manifesto itself. I forget it too, but I know exactly what you speak of. They directly address this. They portray themselves as the victim, as happy people, as somebody that one wants to associate with and have sympathy for, rather than as an enemy, I guess you could call it. They worked very hard at this, and they did it for decades, and it has worked. It has convinced the society that this is normal behavior, and this has been accepted. And it's causing it's been accepted so deeply. It's causing long-term cultural changes. Long-term changes. We're talking here about the society itself is reshaping our laws to reflect that. People blame the politicians for social problems. That really is a misnomer. And a lot of this talk about changing laws is a bunch of garbage. You don't start by changing laws, because the laws of a society are a reflection of the people that are within it. They're meant to govern the people that live in it. I mean, tyranny comes from the masses, and then it's imposed by the top down. So if the people act a certain way, then the laws and trends and customs of society conform to the way they act, for good or for bad. If you are supporting, certain types of behavior, eventually your laws are going to reflect that as it goes on long enough. And that's what's happened. This behavior has been tolerated for so long, accepted for so long, embraced for so long. It is permanently changed. It is, I don't want to say permanently changing, but it's for the effective long term of society. Probably for next 100 years, it could guide the way the society moves. It's very possible. And that's what I'm seeing. And that's what you need to be aware of, because if you're a Christian and you oppose it, you follow what the Bible teaches, what sacred tradition teaches, you're going to find yourself unwanted in your own society. You're going to find yourself a pariah. People talk about Christians being of the world and not of the world. Well, you're definitely not going to be of it, because you're not going to fit with the rest of society. You're just not going to. You're going to find yourself, like I said, ostracized, pushed out, not liked, and the subject of, you see, in the old world, persecution comes through direct action. Someone comes at you, says, I hate, says, I'm going to put you in a gulag and send you off. In America, it's not, things don't function that way. We just don't, usually, generally speaking. We have other ways, though, like denial of benefits, denial of services, for all kind of reasons. Denial, the inability to find good work. It's the same effect of cutting the life out of somebody so they can't function anymore, and they are essentially enslaved. It's just a different means. One is a means by external force, one is a means by internal destruction.
Yeah. Well, and also, I'm not saying that this is where it started, but this has definitely been a big target by the sodomites of how they've been able to achieve it. And we've mentioned this many times. This is not new. But women. Can you show me a woman today that doesn't have their little cute sodomite friend that they just love and adore? Oh my God, like, he does wonders with my hair and my nails, and I can talk to him about anything, and he's there to listen for me, and he's a guy, but yet he doesn't want anything out of me. He doesn't want to have sex with me. He just is there to listen to my feelings. I think that's not necessarily where it started, but that's a factor. They go after women they're in women's friend circles. You know, they guys always have to hear their wives or their girlfriends or their daughters, cousins, whoever, just go on and on about how much they love their gay friend. Why women are infatuated with homosexuals, I don't get it. I never will get it. It's something that's very sickening.
Because they're men who act like women, so it's like trying to have your cake and eat it too. That's what it is. You can have this thing that gives you the validation, attention, and allows you to project yourself onto them as much as you want, but you don't have to reciprocate.
Yeah,
you don't.
Exactly.
So that's why they love it. That's why there's so much pop. That's what I've seen. The popularity is it's a form of it's the same reason why you have all these women who are like this. Hey there, Sean. Yeah, you want to go on a date? Okay. That's the reason why. Because it's a form of narcissism. It allows you to indulge. It allows you to indulge because what you do is you go on to your phone here, and you go to Tinder or to like Plenty of Fish or one of those crazy match sites. And you go to it. Any woman could put out an ad, and she will have hundreds of men messaging her. It's a buffet. She's got it. You know, with the song "It's Raining Men," hallelujah. Well, guess what? You got it on your phones.
I've seen
most
that.
of these men will never even get a date. It's about validation. Oh, look at me. I'm 500 pounds, and I'm so horrible, but all these men love me. I'm obviously fine. I can stroke my own ego. Meanwhile, you have hundreds of guys who are thinking, I'm just trying to get something here, please. I'm going to swipe anything that has a pulse, and hopefully something will respond.
Yeah, he's a slump.
So the men, for women, people talk, people, this is a buffet. This is a penis buffet right here for women. But when it comes to men, it's to quote Dante in his Inferno, abandon all hope, ye who enter unto here.
That makes perfect sense.
That's what it is.
And the funny thing is
narcissism. So the gay friend provides narcissism for the individual.
Go ahead, dude. He provides narcissism.
I know, so it just indulges their narcissism. That's all it does. It allows them to indulge it, and it gives them a free pass to do so.
Well, the funny thing about that too is, we talk about these women who hang out with all these gay dudes. They think that this guy doesn't want anything out of them. Well, interesting story about that. And I know that I told you this already, but I have a good friend of mine. Obviously I'm not gonna name names or where they're from and all that, but he has a very, how should I say, live and let live way of thinking, which I've even told him on many occasions that's a dangerous way of thinking. And so if you're listening, buddy, I'm not talking crap about you. I've told you this myself. But his fiance is no different. She has her group of girlfriends, and in their group of girlfriends is this one sodomite. And my buddy, even though he has the way of thinking that he does, he knows better. And the story goes like this. His fiance and all her friends and this sodomite, they're planning to have this night out in the town and then go back to a hotel or someone's house, wherever, for this little slumber party they're going to have. And they're talking about this at a restaurant at the dinner table, and they're talking about how much fun they're going to have and all that, having a girls' night. And this sodomite pipes up and says, "Oh my God, yeah, yay, we get to sleep in the same bed together." And my buddy, he told me that as soon as he heard that, he got that sick feeling all the way deep in the pit of his stomach. And so then, a few minutes later, all the women at the table, they get up to go to the bathroom, powder their nose and all that stuff. And it's just my buddy and the sodomite sitting at the table. And if you know my buddy, he's not one to hold back. He pipes up and says exactly what he's thinking. But he says to the sodomite, "Hey, dude, tell me something. What's this you're talking about sleeping in the same bed together?" And the sodomite goes, "What do you mean, dude?" And my buddy says, "There is no way in hell that you are sleeping in the same bed with my fiance. That's not happening." And the sodomite goes, "But you don't understand. I'm gay. I go with men. I don't go with women." And my buddy says, I don't give a shit what the hell you say you are. The bottom line is, you have a cock and balls in between your legs, and if I find out from anybody that you were sleeping in the same bed with her, I'm going to rip your nuts off. No questions asked. And this sodomite gets up, hurries away from the table, and this part I still find funny to this day, but his fiance comes back and says, hey, what did you say to him? And he goes, my buddy says, I told him exactly what? He's not going to be sharing the same bed with you. And his fiance goes, well, he's out there crying right now. And I'm like, what a pussy. and my buddy had a good point. This is what he tells me. He goes, Sean, here's the thing, Sean. Most guys would probably think, oh, this gay guy's hanging out with your girlfriend and her friends. He's not going to do anything. Well, here's the thing. He can say that he's gay all that he wants.
No.
But when but the thing is, he's still a guy. And when he's with a bunch of women and they're out for a night on the town, going to the club
Correct.
and whatnot,
Biology.
and you've got these women who, they got their hair done, their nails done, they're wearing some sexy dresses and high heels, they're showing some leg, they're flashing a little bit of cleavage. You mean to tell me that this guy, just because he says he's a homosexual, isn't going to be turned on by that? Bullshit that he's not going to be turned on by that, because he's still a guy. He's attracted to the female body because that's how it was supposed to be. So he's turned on by that. And then afterwards, they go to a hotel room.
Exactly.
They've all been drinking. Nobody's in their right state of mind. Well, what if those girls are feeling a little frisky? They want to have some fun. They know they have this one guy with them. Well, what do you think? What if he says, okay, you know what? I'm a little horny myself. I'm going to have some fun with these girls. And I'm not going to repeat everything that my buddy said. It's pretty graphic, but he's like, what if he gets my girlfriend pregnant, Sean, or my fiance now? Then she's got this child on the way. Guess who's going to take care of it? Me. It's not going to be him. It's going to be me. So I'm just what he called the piggy in the middle. So he's like, so the bottom line is, all these guys and the people who say that, oh, they're gay, they're not gonna try anything, make any advances on these women that they hang out with. Here's what I say: bullshit. Bullshit. They're still a guy.
Absolutely. You have to, because it's a biological issue. You don't do that. There are certain things you just don't do, and this is one of them. Because it's going to cause trouble. It's going to cause trouble. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You don't mess around with that. There's certain things you just don't do. This is one of them.
Yeah, because, I mean, really, you see a girl, like, okay, say you're on the beach, for example. You see a girl walking by and she's wearing a really hot bikini. If you're not turned on by that, you're crazy. The same thing here, and it's even easier because this guy says he's gay, and he has this buffet of women to choose from, and they think he's not going to do anything because he says he goes with men,
and he feels safe. They feel like he's a safe man. Well, he's not going to do anything. I can be safe with him. So their guards are down. They might choose to do something just because, oh, well, I don't have to worry about him committing and the issues that might come.
Yeah, it's basically
he's gay, so therefore I don't have to worry. I can have fun with him.
Yeah, so when these guys say that they're gay and they're not interested in women, it's a bunch of bullshit. You hear the arguments. Oh, I didn't choose to be this way. That's how I was born. No, you're choosing to do it because you like doing it. It's a freaking fetish. But if you had the chance to have sex with a woman, you would do it.
Well, precisely. It's a form of degeneracy. I mean, the Bible says very clearly the LGBT is a form of degeneracy. So if it's degenerate, then obviously one could return to a natural state. And if one chooses to, well, now you're in double jeopardy because now you might just find yourself doing something else that's bad. Sleeping with some other guy's wife, or soon to be wife. So it's a story that is doomed to end in a bad way, no matter how you look at it. I don't care what country or culture you're from. You don't do this, because human nature is universal, no matter where you go, whether you're in the jungle of Papua New Guinea or whether you're in downtown London. It doesn't make a difference.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And also, to add on to that, when you'd mentioned earlier about how, like if you're not for the LGTB, they'll ruin you. Another good friend of mine is a musician, and he's actually had some pretty moderate success. He played in a band for a while. The band never really got to the heights that it did, but they played shows with Fall Out Boy before they became famous. I think it's Hawthorne Heights and a few others. And he actually has even played the drums in a music track that was on a movie. Yeah. So he's had some pretty decent success. But him and I were talking about this one night, and my buddy, he's a liberal. He unfortunately supports all this stuff, and it's really sad, but it's hard to end friendships that have been part of your life for so long. And he's also unfortunately just became an atheist too, joined the freaking American Atheists, and yeah, he got his little membership card, and I think it's pathetic that you have to show a membership card just because you're a non-believer. But anyway, I was talking with him about all the stuff that we're talking about right now.
It is pretty funny to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is funny. But we were talking about this stuff last night. This is actually several years ago. What am I saying last night? I straight up asked him, I'm like, dude, with you being involved in the music business and all that, or just entertainment in general, tell me the truth. Are you allowed to be a conservative Christian? And he goes, what do you mean, Sean? And I'm like, I'm talking about, like, can you be against abortion? Can you be against homosexuality and gay marriage? He's like, no, you can't. You can't, Sean. You really can't. And I'm like, and he cut me off there, and he said, well, actually, Sean, you have the freedom to, of course, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is, if you say it openly, the people in charge of of the entertainment industry, they'll make sure your career goes nowhere. So you have to agree with that stuff. And I asked him straight up, I'm like, but dude, despite your beliefs and all that, don't you think that that's wrong? And he says, yes, Sean, it is wrong. There's no question about that. I 100% agree with you there. It's just, unfortunately, that's the reality. The people who run the entertainment business and all that, they're the ones who back this stuff. They believe it. They expect you to come on board with them.
Yes, man, it's true. I mean, it's very true, and it's one of the hard reasons why so many don't want to take a hard moral line, even though I don't want to like beat on people who don't, because obviously people have interests to protect, like their families, and they don't, so a lot of times it's their only means of income. I understand that, but at the same time, as I'm telling everybody who wants to call themselves a Christian, you have to start at this point taking stock of the situation and preparing for what I call the inevitable, because inevitably is going to come to a point where it's going to be very hard to profess your faith, or just to be a Christian and survive. It's very likely this is going to happen, because you will have no means of support. So I advise people continually, because of these trends and the way they're developing, you need to start taking stock of this and developing ways to support yourself now, where you're not per se dependent upon somebody else. And I don't mean dependent in the sense of like you don't work with other people, you're a self-made man, but in terms of the idea that your work is something that you could take with you, or that it's something that you can bring to another place, or that if one person terminates you, you can go to another one with ease because of whatever skill, ability, service, product, call it what you want, that you have, that you can essentially almost I don't want to say separate from you, but that you can use to divide against yourself, so that you don't find yourself destitute.
Yeah.
It's very important to do this.
Oh well, and here's another example of that, of this kind of thing. It's not just the entertainment business. This stuff is happening in the world of sports too. Like, I don't know if you or Ted ever saw this or not, but baseball player Daniel Murphy.
Oh.
Baseball player Daniel Murphy. This was about 4 years ago. This is when he was with the New York Mets. Billy Beane. And I'm not talking about the general manager of the Oakland A's. I'm talking there was another Billy Beane years before him. He was an open sodomite baseball player. Well, this one day during a Mets practice, they have Billy Beane come down, who I guess is now their homosexual ambassador, or whatever the hell his role is. And he gave a speech to the team, or a talk to the team, about equality in sports and in baseball, which really is a speech that translates to, hey, I'm Billy Beane, I'm a homosexual, you have to accept me as right, and what I'm doing is right, or else I'm going to ruin you. So he meets the players, he meets all the Mets players, and they go into the clubhouse, and the press is there, and they're interviewing all the players about that speech and that talk and whatnot. And they come to Daniel Murphy, and they ask Daniel Murphy what he thought of it. And let me tell you something. I'm a Cubs fan, and Daniel Murphy killed us in the playoffs a couple of years ago. But I will always respect this guy, regardless of that. And this is what he told the press. He says, "Well, first off, I don't agree with Billy Beane being homosexual. My Christian faith, I think it's wrong, but that doesn't mean that I won't get to know this guy as a person and take advice from him." And that's all he said. And I think that is one of the most reasonable answers that you could ever give. No, as soon as he said that, the press tore him apart.
Absolutely.
This guy, just recently with Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire, Daniel Murphy got death threats, some of the most vile, vicious things that you could say to a person. And then he's played for a couple different teams since then. He was with us on the Cubs last year at the later part of the season, and he was still hearing it. They were still harassing this guy. Even when he was in Chicago, I listened to a station called 670 The Score AM radio. It's sports talk station. And of course, when Daniel Murphy got acquired by the Cubs, sure enough, I was going to hear it on sports talk radio. These guys still talking about it. Happened 4 years earlier. These people cannot get over it. One of the afternoon guys, I think it was on the McNeil and Parkin show, they actually compared homosexuality to being left or right-handed. But they were doing everything that they could to vilify this guy and to ruin him. But still, though, when he came to the Cubs, he did well for us. That didn't stop the people there from giving him a standing ovation when he hit a home run or something. People loved him. And let me tell you something. There is a sodomite neighborhood 2 blocks over from Wrigley Field. So, anyway, he's now with the Colorado Rockies, and I'm sure he's probably still getting it over there too. But it's like, the point is, my Lord, if a small comment like that is gonna get you death threats and harassment for 4 or 5 years, that just tells me that our society has a major, major problem.
Yeah, we have a very serious problem, and like I said, it's not getting worse because the social acceptance is promoted everywhere. So you find yourself increasingly isolated, and it makes things hard. It makes things harder to work with. I speak of this in a social sense. People, it really is a problem for a lot of people, and it's going to continue to become one. So This is why I say I emphasize to people, you need to start thinking now about what the future holds. I'll give you another trend that I've discussed. One of the big trends I've been warning people about, and that people call me absolutely crazy for, is 5 years from now. 5 years from now, I'll explain how this relates in a second. 5 years, from the economic data that I'm seeing, it's very similar to 2003 right now. I would not be surprised if by the next election, I don't mean 2020, I mean 2024, we had TARP-style bailouts that happened. I would not be surprised if we had TARP-style bailouts, if we had another economic depression, because the depression of 2008 never went away. We're in that same pattern right now. It's repeating before our eyes. So, and that has serious implications. I tell people, in my articles, if you have, regardless of where you're working, regardless of what people are saying about the economy, you got to start getting ready now. Start saving up money, work a second job if you have to, try to get another skill, because things are going to get uglier. It's the same principle but applied with the LGBT issue and with other social and moral issues. It's going to be harder and harder as a Christian to survive in society. It's just going to be. There's no changing that right now. You can't fight this trend. The culture war is over. We lost. You lost. It's done. It's water under the bridge. There's no sense in fighting right now. Am I saying you give up and not try to stand against things like abortion? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you have to accept things where they are as they are. You have to accept this reality as it is, whether you like it or not. And one of these realities is that we lost. We lost miserably. This war was lost before even a lot of us were born, or maybe very little. We didn't even have a chance to do a lot seriously to stop it. A lot of the work was lost not on our watch. Some of it was lost on our watch, but a lot of it was already done there, and we just finished the job. Really.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the next step. Focus on the future. Focus on the next step. Focus on what is coming. I mean, crying about spilled milk just doesn't clean the milk up. There was a bishop, not a bishop, a cardinal of the church. Well, technically a bishop, but they call him cardinal as the title. The Cardinal George of Chicago. I think it was of Chicago. He said, "I will die in bed. My successor will die in jail, and his successor will die a martyr in the public square, and his successor will be the one to pick up the ruins of a broken civilization, as the church has always done in the past." That's sort of what we're looking at. These words were said some years ago, back around 2012, 2013, but they're very prophetic in that way, in terms of what he was seeing. We're seeing some serious troubled times come ahead. And if you know it's coming, and I'm saying there's a very high chance that it is based on the current trends, you've got to start getting yourself ready. You've got to you've got to prepare yourself. I mean, spiritually, obviously first, but you got to think about money, because in this country everything works on the dollar, and if you don't have money, you can't pay for it. You're out of luck, and there's no one's going to help you.
Unless you
got to start getting your finances ready. Not because some of these talk shows have you want your best, you want to go to Disney World. It's so you can have bread on the table.
Yeah, exactly. And like I just said, unless you want to live off the grid and live like that, then by all means go for it. But myself, I'd rather keep living the life that I'm living now. But I mean, yeah. I mean, the way it's going, I agree with you. I mean,
right.
You could very well see Christian death camps. Not overnight, but it could very well happen.
Right, and they couch it as some way. They couch it in some way, but the fact is, you're not going to be liked. You're not going to be liked, and it's going to find yourself really hard to take care of yourself. So you've got to start thinking of means now. You got to start doing things now. As I've told people, one of the best things you can do is if you can squeeze it into your schedule and try to work at it, get a second job. One job for your regular income, another one just to save as much money as you can. Or if you can get overtime at work, take all the overtime that you can get work like a dog for the next 5 years.
We're working 50-hour weeks right now.
I'm
Where I'm
speaking of the
at.
economy in that sense, but I'm also speaking of this future of the LGBT, because you got to start. Yeah, I mean, exactly. You're doing the 50-hour weeks now. I mean, fine, whatever. They're paying you for it, whatever. I mean, this, it's like the grasshopper and the ant story.
Yep.
The grasshopper played in the summer, while the ant worked his tail off, and when the winter freeze came, the grasshopper died. The ant was doing okay in his colony. That's the attitude that I'm trying to emphasize. Be the ant, not the grasshopper. It's a life lesson for everyone throughout history. It's a good life lesson for everyone. But for being a Christian today, it is especially an important life lesson if you want to have a chance at weathering the moral and social turmoil that is pretty obvious, that is obviously coming before us, and yet so few want to discuss.